Welcome back to my channel at The Film Optimist, everybody. I just got done watching Wicked, the live-action adaptation based off of the wildly popular Broadway play that has been running for, well, I don't really know, but a really long fucking time. In this movie, Elphaba is played by Cynthia Erivo, and Ariana Grande plays Glinda, who will go on to become the Good Witch of Oz. However, for those of you who don't know, this is an origin story that shows us what led to Elphaba becoming the Wicked Witch of the West, and essentially it starts off with her being born, and we see how the town kind of hates her because of how she looks. It's really a story about people that don't fit in because they look slightly different. It's a movie that hits really close to home, which is why Elphaba is just such a relatable character and you can get behind her and root for her. And throughout her life, she's kind of really bullied, and it turns her into this person that wants to stick up for other people that are looked down upon and are bullied. She becomes a voice for them. And throughout her childhood, a lot of it is her sticking up to bullies and looking after her sister, who is paralyzed and in a wheelchair. Eventually, she's old enough to go to school, where she meets Ariana Grande's character, and what starts as a rivalry of jealousy turns them both into really close friends, forming this sister-like bond between the two of them. While this bond is happening, Michelle Yeoh plays the dean, essentially, of the school shiz, and she's really grooming Elphaba to hone her powers so that she can go over to the Emerald City where the Wizard of Oz is and help him achieve his dreams in uniting the people by giving them a common enemy. However, what they don't know is that the wizard has something way more wicked in store for Elphaba. See what I did there? And I'll say this right off the bat, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it was a masterclass at directing and cinematography. The story in and of itself, it's really endearing because it really is just about these sisters that are put in this really awful and hard predicament, and how it kind of tests their friendship and their love for one another, especially towards the end. They both want drastically different things, but they also want to stay friends and they want to stay together and keep this sisterhood going. They just can't because of the paths they're both put on towards the end. I thought their chemistry together was remarkable, truly just breathtaking. The performances from Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are out of this world. They are acting and singing their guts out, but the standout here isn't Cynthia Erivo as much as it's Ariana Grande. I did not realize, and yes, I know she was on Disney Channel, but let's be honest, no one on the Disney Channel is giving Oscar-worthy performances. Ariana Grande here is truly giving a performance that I think could get her a Best Acting nomination, or at least a Best Supporting Actress nomination. And don't get me wrong, Cynthia Erivo is wonderful in this role, but there were some times where I felt like it was Cynthia Erivo playing the character of Elphaba. And that's not all the time. Like, sometimes she was nailing it, but sometimes I felt like she was playing a character, whereas in Ariana Grande's character, she embodied Glinda. Like, everything down to her mannerisms, the way she walked, the way she talked, the way she moved her head and flipped her hair back. Everything about her was just so reminiscent to the original performance on Broadway. I was just so impressed with her. I thought all of the musical numbers were perfect. There was not one that was, it seemed like they were honing it in or hamming in. It was truly incredible to watch, especially because John M. Chu, the director of this film, talked about how they wanted to capture a lot of the audio for the music on set, in character, in costume. There's very little that is ADR'd in a studio afterwards. They're not lip syncing. They're really performing here, and it just immerses you into the movie more. It immerses the cast into the movie more because they're actually watching these girls belt their hearts out. The sets were done practically. There's a shot in the trailer where you see a bunch of children running over a field of flowers, and it's easy to look at that and think CGI, and then you hear John M. Chu talk about how no, they flew millions of flowers out to this field for them to plant them, for the authenticity of it. The sets, the school, they were all built so that when you're standing there, you truly feel like you're watching people standing in this magical school that they're standing in. Now, not everything is practical, obviously. The Emerald City would be really hard to do that practically, and there's only so much money Universal could throw around for them to do it. But they interweave it in with other practical things that you never really notice the CGI. Michelle Yeoh is fantastic as Madame Marble, who is, like I said, the dean of the school. She even gets her own musical number here, and I didn't know Michelle Yeoh could sing, but she has a pretty good voice. Jeff Goldblum as the wonderful Wizard of Oz is just an inspiring casting. He's not in the movie a lot. He's only in it for like maybe 20 minutes towards the end where they finally get to Emerald City. But there's just something so appealing about watching him perform, especially as this character. He's just so mesmerizing and he has so much charm, even though if you've seen it, I don't want to ruin it for people that haven't, you know his true motives. He's so likable even when he isn't. I really had a blast watching his character, and I truly hope we see more of him in a part 2. Peter Dinklage as Dr. Dillamond is also really great here. You obviously don't get to see Peter Dinklage, but you hear his performance and his voice work, and it's really refreshing to see him. I love watching him. I loved him in Game of Thrones. And he also has a little musical bit in this where he does sing a little bit, and he sounds great. The cast is great, the comedy is great, the music is exactly what you want it to be. When they're belting, it is chilling. You have chills listening to them perform these iconic songs. The story is endearing, the sets are practical, everything was almost perfect. The only reason why I can't sit here and say that this is a 10 out of 10 is because this movie does drag a little bit, especially in the middle act. This movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I don't know how they could have shortened it because it felt like everything that was in here was important. But if they shaved like 20 minutes off this film, it would have been like this perfect bon appetit. Like you wouldn't have, like, it's almost like when you get that perfect meal and you eat it and you just feel a little bloated afterwards, but not fully bloated, but like a little bit. If they were able to trim just a little bit off to the point where you were full, it would have been perfect. But yeah, like I said, it was just a little bit too long. And like I said, there were moments where Cynthia Erivo was in the spotlight, she was shining, and she was incredible as this character, but then there were moments where I felt like she was just playing a character and not embodying it the way that Ariana Grande was embodying Glinda. So I'm gonna give this movie a 9 out of 10. I really can't recommend this movie enough. I mean, if at the end of the day you do not like musicals, then no, this movie is not gonna be for you. But if you haven't seen Wicked and you like musicals, I think that you will love this movie. It is a great story. I think there is so much in here to enjoy, even if you don't like musicals. The cinematography and the sets alone, and the way they lit this film, if you are a lover of filmmaking, I think you'll really enjoy this film. The last 15 minutes of this movie is everything I wanted it to be. It's everything that anybody that could be a fan of this Broadway play wants it to be. The performance of Defying Gravity literally had me like on pins and needles like while watching it. Cynthia Erivo delivered that song on an epic proportion. Like when she's flying around the castle performing it, it's not only beautiful to look at, like the cinematography, like John M. Chu did some incredible work with how it's just framed. But just watching her perform this on this broomstick, it's like the moment in Man of Steel where he takes first flight. You just get chills. It's like when in Jurassic Park, it's that scene where he's like, they travel in packs, and it's the first reveal of all of the dinosaurs like drinking out like the watering hole, and you just get that like chill in you. You get that for the entire last 15 minutes of this movie, and that's what I left with. So yeah, I'm just left riding this high from it. It's rare where you leave a theater feeling like you've just watched something that changed cinema forever, and I truly think this changed the way that musicals in movies could go. Yes, it's a great story, but it's also tragic in what happens to Elphaba, but that's exactly why it makes this just so incredible. 9 out of 10, I really can't recommend it enough. Don't walk to the theater to go see this, run. I hope I've given you a reason to go to the movies this weekend to see it. I'm sure some of you are going to see this. Some of you are probably going to see Gladiator. I'll be seeing that tomorrow, so stay tuned for that review. As always, guys, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next time.